The other day, I was on the subreddit SG Exams, and there were O-level students talking about studying 6, 8, 10 hours a day like it's a normal thing. Before 2023, I used to think that more time spent on studying meant better grades. And if my grades weren't good enough, it just meant I needed to try harder and grind and spend my entire fucking holiday studying. And how did that work out for me? My grades barely improved. But around 2023, I came across a certain concept which I applied into my studying, and I ended up getting a raw L1R5 of 7, studying an average of only 2 hours a day without any tuition. By the way, my name is Isaac, and I help O-level students get single-digit L1R5s without sacrificing their free time and their happiness. If you've watched me before, and you found my videos very valuable, and you want my help with getting a single-digit L1R5 for your O-levels, click the top link in the description below. That's my O-level coaching program where I'll personally help you start getting A1s. I'm making this video because every student in Singapore, or really every student in the world, has this false belief that studying for more hours will get them better grades. Well, if it was really that simple, everyone would be getting straight A's and going to HCI or RI. Cause the students I saw around me during the O-level period, they worked hard as fuck. I would always see them after school just reading their textbooks or notes or making their own notes. I would do my 2 hours of studying at school, and when I'm about to leave, I would still see them just staring at their laptop or their textbooks. Sometimes I would ask them how long they are planning to stay, and if I remember correctly, some of them, actually all of them, were staying there for like 5, 6 hours or even more. If the amount of time you spend studying was directly proportional to your grades, then why the fuck did I score better than all of those guys staying back at school for like 5, 6 hours to study? I'm not naturally smart. I came from a neighborhood primary school. I didn't have tuition. In fact, tuition had always been completely useless for me. So I quit all of my tuition like 10 months before my O-levels. Do you find yourself sometimes studying more than 5, 6 hours on a certain day? My promise to you is that in this video, I'll teach you a concept that will compress 6, 8, 10 hours of studying into just 2 hours of studying, meaning you'll be able to do the same amount of work that would usually take you 6 to 10 hours in just 2 hours. I'll tell you how it's possible to start studying 2 hours a day while still getting straight A1s. So the concept I came across around 2023 that I'm going to talk about in this video is the concept of deep work and flow state. I'm going to talk about number 1, what deep work is, and number 2, how you can start doing deep work. So part 1, what is deep work and what is flow state? So deep work is basically extremely focused and mentally demanding work where you have to put 101% attention on the work and you can't like multitask or anything like that. Flow state is the state of being very focused when you do deep work. Basically being in the zone. Like that's a very good way to describe it. And you enter this state around 5 to 10 minutes into a period of work. Doing deep work and entering a flow state when you study is the difference between being that guy who studies 2 hours a day and gets single-digit L1R5s, but versus being the guy who studies like more than 4 hours a day and still gets mid-ass grades. Most students don't do deep work. They actually do something called shallow work, which is unfocused work that's not very mentally demanding. They read their textbooks, which is not very mentally demanding. You can literally read your textbook while eating dinner. And then after a while, like a few seconds, they get distracted and then they start listening to music, they start talking to their friends or looking outside the window or playing with their pen or picking a random scab on their skin or some shit. You probably study like that, right? When you do shallow, unfocused work, a lot of the time you spend working or studying isn't actually you working or studying. That's why doing deep work and entering a flow state actually compresses the 6 hour, 8 hour, 10 hour tasks into 2 hour tasks. Because you're spending most of those 2 hours actually doing the work with full focus. So you're able to get more work done in a shorter amount of time. So how do you even do deep work? So deep work has to be mentally demanding and focused work. So we can work on two things which are doing more mentally demanding tasks to study and getting rid of distractions so that you can focus better. So part 2, doing more mentally demanding tasks when studying. So basically what this means is you spend more time doing practice papers and questions, and you spend a lot less time reading your textbook or the notes or whatever. Doing practice papers and questions is a much more mentally demanding task than reading. So even though it's quite difficult to start doing it, a practice paper may seem more daunting than a textbook. You can more easily enter a flow state when you spam practice papers. You can more easily get in the zone and you'll feel amazing, and you'll get that sense of accomplishment after doing a practice paper. And after a while, it actually gets kind of fun. Like you're basically playing a game where you're just trying to beat your previous score. Practice papers are also a very high leverage task for studying, because 2 hours of doing practice papers prepares you for the exams much more effectively than 2 hours of reading, because certain topics tend to get tested more often than others, and doing practice papers prepares you for that. On the other hand, if you mostly study by doing a less mentally demanding task like reading or copying, you don't really enter a flow state, so it's just boring as fuck. And you can get very easily distracted with random things in your environment. It's also not a very high leverage task, because 80% of the things you read in the notes or the textbook is probably not even gonna get tested. And the notes and textbooks are like hundreds of pages long. And that's why you end up spending 6, 8, 10 hours a day studying. There's nothing wrong with a bit of reading the few days before the exam, but practice papers should constitute like 80 to 90% of your time spent studying. Start doing more and start reading less. So your actionable step that you can do right now is to find some practice papers from your school and download them and print them out if possible, because it's much better to do practice papers on physical paper rather than looking at the questions online. If you can't find practice papers from your school, ask your teachers for some. Literally text them or email them right now. And you can do these practice papers for like 1 to 2 hours every weekend. Part 3, getting rid of distractions. There are 3 things you can start doing or stop doing actually right now to get rid of distractions. Number 1, don't purposefully put distractions in your environment. This means no multitasking, no studying with friends, and no Pomodoro technique or whatever. The thing about multitasking and task switching is you literally purposefully break your own focus every time you switch tasks. You never let yourself enter a flow state. And every time you break your focus to change task, it can literally take up to 5 to 10 minutes to get focused again on the newer task. So if every few minutes you're switching from studying this thing to doing this homework to looking at this random website on your laptop, then you lose 5 minutes of productivity every few minutes, which sucks. The thing about studying with friends is that you literally allow several human beings to literally utter a single word or phrase and instantly break your focus like that, and you lose 5 minutes of your productivity every time that happens. Actually, you lose probably more than 5 minutes of productivity, because maybe you end up starting an irrelevant conversation with your friend. The only time when studying with friends is reasonable is if it's more of a social event and you guys aren't actually trying to study and be productive. If you are trying to study and be productive and get shit done, you have to do it by yourself. And the Pomodoro technique, I mean, do I even have to explain what's wrong with it? You break your own focus on purpose every 25 minutes. You're literally actively trying to prevent going to a flow state at this point. Some people say that the Pomodoro technique gets them motivated and helps them to actually start doing the work. But the thing is, if you're just motivated by the 5 minutes break, then you're not going to be able to do focused, deep, high quality work that actually improves your grades, since you're always thinking about the 5-minute break. And you're literally just doing the work for the 5-minute break. Sure, you'll find it easier to start studying, but the studying will be less effective. Everything good comes at a cost. That's just how it is. The superior work-rest split will be like work until your flow state runs out, where basically your brain gets kind of tired. Take a 10 minutes break, then start working again until your flow state runs out again. Rinse and repeat. So your actionable step right now is if you plan to do any of these things, multitasking, studying with friends, more Pomodoro technique, cancel them right now and replace them with something else. Studying with friends is fine as long as you stop seeing it as a productive activity and start seeing it as more of a social activity. It's kind of like for the sake of hanging out with your friends. Number 2, turn off your notifications. So, turn off the fucking notifications on your phone, man. Are you really gonna let this freaking like rectangle have the right to make a sound or light up when you're trying to focus on your work? Are you really gonna let this non-living thing pull you away from the important work that you do as a human being and start scrolling on WhatsApp or Discord or social media or whatever? Do you have any respect for yourself as a person? The phone is a tool. You use the phone doesn't use you. You must let the phone turn on and make sounds only when you want it to, not when the phone wants to. So go to your settings, turn off the notifications for pretty much every single app. Turn on do not disturb and silent mode as well, and keep it on 24/7. That's what I do. And I bet you're thinking right now, oh, but sometimes I get important messages on my phone that I need to read immediately. I want you to look at your notifications right now. Literally pull down the notification drawer and scroll through it and ask yourself, how many of these were actually urgent or important? Then ask yourself, how many of these have the potential to be distracting as fuck? And maybe you're literally feeling the urge to tap on some of them right now as you look through them. The return on investment of turning off your notifications is a net positive. So just do it. That's your actionable step. The third thing you can do to get rid of distractions is to just be aware of them. Whenever you do your work, just be vigilant of what distracts you. Maybe it's your friends, maybe it's something or someone in the environment, maybe it's your own thoughts, it could be anything, right? So just be aware of them and try to find a way to eliminate them after you've finished your work. So your actionable step is simple. Find a piece of paper or a notebook or an online document or anything where you can write something down and it's easily accessible. And every time something distracts you, just write down whatever the distraction was. And once you're done with your work, refer to the document and try to find a way to eliminate all of those distractions or make it happen less somehow. If you did this for just 1 week, you'll easily be 10 times more productive than before. I hope this video is valuable. Once again, click the top link in the description below if you want me to personally help you get A1s. We'll literally have one-to-one video calls and I'll give you personalized advice and strategies and actionable steps to skyrocket your grades. Give me any criticism or feedback in the comments below so that I can improve, and I wish you a good day.